Right, Frankie Ford. Now then, here's the man behind the sea cruise who we don't seem to see much of in this country.
Hello, baby. Hello, Bopper. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. You remind me very much of, I'm sorry to say this, but I see Charlie Gracie all over you. Do you work with Charlie a lot?
No, I have not. It's been, in fact, years. It's like 58, 59, I think, out of Philadelphia. We had the same promotion people.
Yeah, I worked with him about 4 years ago, and he's the same stature as you, isn't he?
And,
you must be bubbling with energy. You look so young, and yet, you know, I mean, we're all going to go back to the 50s, aren't we? You know, I mean,
I'll give you the money later.
Flatterer.
That's marvelous.
Yeah.
Well, I feel that way. You know, we really don't stop, and we do this about 8. Not this particular show, but all shows. We do about 8 months a year, and so I travel about that much, and. I love it.
Yeah, I'm not being disrespectful in any way, but people in England know you only for Sea Cruise. That's all we know you for. That was your big hit in this country. What sort of songs do you do actually on your stage show? Not this particular show, but a normal stage show for you.
Well, you see, I was a member of Huey Piano Smith and the Clowns, so I do some of that. I do. There's a little surprise medley. I open the show, and I'm in the hot seat. I've got to get it off the ground.
Yeah, you're the warm-up act, right?
I'm the warm-up act, and if I don't warm them up, I get warmed over. But I do everything, but almost everything I do in my show was New Orleans-oriented. It was either recorded in New Orleans or recorded by a New Orleans artist. And of course, you didn't know over here, but I had You Talk Too Much. I have a gold record for that also.
Yes, I actually have that.
See that? Right.
But it's not, you know, you're only really known for it, because Piano Huey Smith actually wrote Sea Cruise.
Yes.
I mean, did he write it especially for you? Or?
No, it was not written for me and Al. In fact, it was to be his follow-up to Don't You Just Know It. But he didn't have he didn't need a record at the time. And so I had a record earlier in '58 called Cheatin' Woman on Ace in the States. And I needed a new record, and I was to be his new lead singer in the studio, because I sounded black, and still do, incidentally. And
so that was a great help then, wasn't it?
Oh, well, it was a shocker when I arrived on some theater gigs and they found out I was white. I mean, that can be quite a shock. But he wrote the tune, and then they put it out on me. They said, well, Frankie needs a record. Now let's put that out on him. That's how chaotic. Anyone that saw the movie American Hot Wax, and they said that movie was utter chaos. Well, that's exactly what we were trying to get over, that era was utter chaos. You knew not what was going to happen.
Well, Tony Khan, actually, another guy, sorry name dropping here, but I worked with him, and he worked a lot around New Orleans. He said that if you didn't go down very well with the audience in the black theatres, they would have a big hook and hook you around the neck and pull.
Oh, that's the whole thing. Of course, or that they threw you in the parking lot. Of course, here you call it the car park, but they just picked you up and literally threw you out of the door and said, "Don't come back till you learn that." But I learned, and I worked with black artists, and that's my no pun intended, but that's my roots.
So you really lean towards rhythm and blues, doo-wop, close harmony stuff. Is that well, your personal taste?
My personal stuff is like Fats Domino, Little Richard, Huey Piano Smith, and me.
What about Cajun music? Because that's just on the doorstep, isn't it?
Well, I did at the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival 2 years ago. I had a swamp pop jam, and of course, you smiling, you know what that is, and that means South Louisiana swamp pop. I had Johnny Allen, Rod Bernard, Dale and Grace, Jivin' Jean, and we had something that day like 200,000 people at the fairgrounds in New Orleans. It was a smash. It was a great show. Got great reviews.
Have you ever thought of coming over here, on your own, with your band and doing a show over here?
Well, I have. I've done 2 or 3. It sounds strange when you say I've done 2 or 3, but when you're traveling like this and so much, sometimes you do not know what town you're in. We did Norway and Sweden last year, and by the time in Norway I learned to say the name of the town, we were gone. We were out of the town already. It took me that long. And I did 2 festivals, at 2 or 3 at Caister, at Great Yarmouth. I did Eindhoven. In fact, in April, I think.
Weren't you in Bristol sometime around this year? This year or end of last year in Bristol?
Yes, in Bristol.
Did you notice the difference between the audiences where you go on a tour like this, for instance? You're going to get audiences sit down wearing suits and so on, and where you go to your rock and roll venues, there's people wearing the old Drake Teddy Boy suits.
Well, we're getting that also. We're getting everything. But I'm seeing like 3 generations now that the mothers in the middle, they were the ones that were in the 50s and did it. And Mama sort of picked up on it because that radio was going, and you got to pick up on it. And now, since that's played so much, the kids, and we're getting grandmother, mother, and it's the same on the other side.
Are you finding wherever you're going now, in the States as well as abroad, you're finding your little niche, your little part where you're very happy to play on stage to the audiences that remember the 50s? Or are you thinking to yourself, I wish I could break away from it and do something else?
Well, I work, as you say here, I work cabaret acts. I have a cabaret act that I use, like dinner theaters and pubs, clubs there. And I think you gear to what is going on. I think I'm not you have to gear to your audience. And if they're going to see a rock and roll show, they do not expect me to do a ballad. And you're not going to hear a ballad from me. But if I work a cabaret, and which I came out of a very strange era, like in the mid-50s, where on the charts in the States you could have Tony Bennett, Frank Sinatra, Fats Domino, Patti Page, Little Richard, Pat Boone, thankfully Frankie Ford, Huey Piano Smith. It was very varied. So I went through that transition. So I've done it all, and I studied, and I've done not on Broadway, but I've done Broadway shows.
Yeah. How did you actually get into it? What started it all off? Was it high school and everybody was picking guitars up and playing all?
In diapers, I would crawl to the jukebox and crawl up on it and stand there and dance. I mean, I was holding on to a jukebox when I'm still in diapers.
You were listening to Big Joe Turner stuff?
Well, then it was probably Hank Williams, and stuff like that. So, and a varied stuff. I don't think Joe was around then, Big Turner. But it was just, I wanted music all of my life. And then I was singing in the backyard. We had a adjacent yard, and the lady in the back of us said to my mother, he sings better than those kids I hear on the radio every Sunday. And so my mother looked into it, and she said, would you like to do it? And I said, yes. I have a very supportive family, and I do not have stage parents. They are supportive. If I want to do it, fine. If I don't, good, and goodbye, and that's it. But so then I started taking voice lessons. And then within a month after taking voice, I was on the radio every Sunday. And so then in 1952, I was on the Ted Mack Original Amateur Hour in New York. And so then that was when I became a professional.
So it wasn't a question of a long hard slog with singing in, as you call them, parking lots, selling cars and things like that.
Oh yes, it's a long. Before I was on the amateur hour, I won like 13 consecutive contests in Louisiana, and then the last one was the state amateur champion, and then I went on to New York. But it's a long haul, but. The good thing about it is when you remember how you traveled then in cars that were not air conditioned, and then later on the bus that were only the regular bus that were not customized as they are now, which is very lovely. I travel like this very easy, but it was a long haul, but the haul was very educational, and if you could work under those conditions. Under the conditions today, it's a piece of cake. As we say in New Orleans, ain't nothing but a party.
The big stars that you travelled with in the early days, the big package tours that you were on, do you look back then you must look back then with a tremendous fondness You know,
Well,
like days long gone by now.
Well, the thing I look about, I call them my friends in heaven. I mean, I was with Jackie Wilson the night he received his gold record for Lonely Teardrops. The cologne I wear was given to me by Jackie in 1959, and I've not worn anything since. And when I saw him right before the great tragedy that happened to him, he hugged me and he said, "You're still wearing that." You know, and when you look upon it like these were my idols, and then all of a sudden I'm friends with them. I mean, it's like Bo and I, you know, sit in the back of the bus and we tell stories because we're the old troopers.
Yeah.
You know, not that everyone else is not troopers on this show, but we go back in the 50s where we really travel shabby. You know, pack the station wagon in the car, and you hope you have enough time to get to the next gig. There's no regrets at all that I have.
No, it must have been incredible. You must have thousands of stories to tell. I just wish I could spend the whole hour with you.
The book is going to be too long, really.
Yeah. And you're actually writing one now.
Well, we're putting stuff down, and it's just the things that the mind is a wonderful, wonderful thing, because the things that you remember. And speaking with Bo Diddley, you know, we go back and tell stories, you know, that of things that we remember. The lady in the back of the Uptown Theater in Philadelphia, there was like an alley in the back of the theater, and across the street was a house, and this lady would cook, and all the acts would give her so much a week, and you just go in and eat. And we all called her Mama. And on that show, it was very strange. I was the only white boy on the show. And she, you know, she'd come in and she said, "Honey, you ain't gonna know nothing about what I'm I said, "Just give me some collard greens and some fried cornbread, honey. Don't worry about it." And she said, "Oh God, you at home, honey." So, you know, it's things like that. We remember, like, you know, the 5 a days where they showed a movie between each show.
Amazing. Of course, be touring with black artists, and of course during the later part of the 50s, you'd come in contact with this. You know, you ain't going to play in this city because rock and roll is the devil's music. And
well, we had gotten to a number of cities when they found out we were a rock and roll show. They wouldn't rent to us, even though we had reservations. And then my conductor, Red Tyler, who did all the Ace stuff with Lee Allen and, of course, Robert Parker and the whole group. He was with me, and some of the hotels up north, now I'm not talking about down south, we had that all worked out down there. Because New Orleans is a southern city, but it's not actually southern in that attitude. And they would not rent to me because Red was black. So I just went to a black hotel and got better food.
Yeah, actually, Frankie, you'd be pleased to know that they've issued a lot of the Ace material in this country. There's been a couple of albums come out.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, where my money, honey?
You're on there as well.
No, I mean, every place I go, when we were in Holland, someone brought a record of You Talk Too Much, and a beautiful color sleeve, and it had a parrot on it, which is really, and I had no idea this was issued. We played a gig at Dingwalls in London, and then about a month later, there was a live album out of Germany of me at Dingwalls.
Yeah, that's true, yes.
So you never know who's in the audience, who's
in
taping.
'69 you had a hit in this country again, didn't you, with Sea Cruise? It was reissued again in '69.
It was reissued again, and of course the Ace album, and then we cut the last album in London.
Incredible. It's all going very well for you in this country.
And, well, this is my, I think, 3rd time this year. So
nice to have you over here, Frank.
Oh, I love it.
Look forward to seeing you tonight. Best of luck with the show and the tour. And next time you're coming around on the tour with your own band, I'll see you doing your real thing.
Thank you, Big Bopper.